The hollowing. There is a place where the trees grow wrong. Not twisted or gnarled, just wrong. Their branches too thin, their leaves too still, as if they're holding their breath. The locals call it Hollow's End, though no one remembers why. Some say it's because of the sinkholes that open without warning, swallowing deer, fences, the occasional hiker. Others whisper about the town that once stood there, a place that vanished overnight in 1893, leaving nothing but empty houses and cold hearths. But the truth is worse. The hollowing didn't stop with the town. It's still happening, and if you listen too closely to the wind, you might hear the voices of the taken calling out from below. 1. The sinkholes that whisper. The first one opened in the middle of Main Street in 1987, just a crack at first, barely wide enough to slip a hand into. Then it widened, yawning like a hungry mouth. They found the remains of a missing child inside, or at least, they thought they did. The bones were too small, too numerous, as if something had chewed the poor girl apart and then reassembled her wrong. The worst part, the hole never closed. If you kneel beside it on windless nights, you can hear something moving down there. Something that talks in a voice like grinding teeth. 2. The photograph that shouldn't exist. In the town archives, there's a single photo of Hollow's End taken the day it disappeared. It shows the townsfolk standing in the square, their faces blurred, their bodies elongated, as if the camera caught them mid-fall. No one knows who took it. No one knows how it survived. But if you stare too long, the figures begin to move, their stretched arms reaching for the edges of the frame, their mouths opening in silent screams. 3 people have tried to burn the photo. All 3 were found the next morning with their hands fused to their own faces, their fingers buried deep in their eye sockets. 3. The radio signals from below. In 1994, a ham radio operator picked up a transmission from deep underground. It was a man's voice, frantic, repeating the same phrase over and over. "They're digging us out." The signal cut off abruptly, replaced by a wet, crunching sound. The FCC traced the origin to a point directly beneath Hollow's End. When they drilled down to investigate, the borehole came up full of teeth, human teeth. Thousands of them, all impossibly pristine. The drill team quit after that. But the transmissions never stopped. And lately they've started playing on baby monitors. Are the trees that remember. The forest around Hollow's End is old, older than it should be. Carbon dating places some of the trees at over 10,000 years. Yet their rings tell a different story. Centuries of growth compressed into decades, as if time itself is broken here. But the real horror lies in the bark. If you peel it back, you'll find faces staring out at you, their mouths stretched in agony. Loggers who've tried to cut the trees down report hearing screams as the saws bite deep. And sometimes, when the wind blows just right, the leaves rustle in voices that shouldn't exist anymore. 5. The night the stars went out. On August 17, 2001, every light in Hollow's End died at exactly 3:07 a.m. Not just the electricity, the stars vanished too, swallowed by a darkness so complete it felt alive. Those brave enough to step outside reported feeling something brush against them in the black, something with too many hands. When dawn finally came, the town was untouched. But the people, they were different, quieter, their eyes never quite focused on the world around them. And when asked what happened that night, they'd only smile and say, "They showed us the hollow places." Within a year, every last one of them walked into the woods and never came back. 6. The children who come back wrong. Every few years, a child goes missing in Hollow's End, and sometimes, not often, but sometimes they return. They look the same. They sound the same, but their parents know. They always know. The returned children never eat, never sleep. They just sit in their rooms, staring at the walls, whispering to something no one else can see. And if you listen closely, you'll realize they're not speaking at all. They're echoing, repeating words spoken from somewhere far, far below. The longest any of them have lasted is 3 months. Then they simply unravel, their bodies collapsing inward like deflated balloons, leaving behind nothing but a pile of clothes and a faint, echoing scream. 7. The water that doesn't reflect. The lake at the edge of town is perfectly still, no matter how strong the wind blows. And if you look into its depths, you won't see your reflection. Instead, you'll see them, the taken, their faces pressed against the underside of the water, their mouths moving in silent pleas. Divers who've ventured below report seeing entire buildings down there. Streets, people going about their lives as if nothing is wrong. No one has ever reached the bottom, and no one who's tried has ever surfaced with their sanity intact. The door that appears at midnight. It's always the same, a plain wooden door, standing upright in the middle of the forest with no walls around it. If you approach, you'll hear knocking from the other side. Open it, and you'll find a staircase leading down into impossible blackness. 5 people have vanished this way. The 6th came back. Sort of. He was found curled in a fetal position, his arms wrapped around his knees, his mouth sewn shut with something that looked like human hair. When they cut the threads, all that came out was a single, shuddering word. Below. 9. The shadows that walk. They appear at dusk, tall, thin figures with no faces, gliding silently between the trees. The locals know better than to go outside after dark. But sometimes the shadows come inside. They stand at the foot of beds, watching, waiting. If you're foolish enough to speak to them, they'll lean down and whisper something in a language that itches inside your skull. Those who've heard it describe the sensation as having something crawl into their ears and start chewing. Most go mad within days. The rest, well, they're the ones who start digging in their backyards, their hands bloody, their eyes blank, muttering about making room for the others. 10. The truth no one wants to face. Hollow's End isn't a town. It never was. It's a wound, a tear in the world where something older than time is slowly bleeding through. The disappearances, the whispers, the impossible things that lurk just out of sight. They're not accidents. They're invitations, because whatever lies beneath is waking up. And when it finally opens its eyes, there won't be a mystery left to solve. Just an empty town, silent forests, and the terrible, gnawing knowledge that we were never meant to see what's coming. 1. The vanishing families. The first family to disappear was the Hargroves in 1923. They had just moved in, laughing as they carried furniture through the creaking front door, unaware that the house was watching. Neighbors said they heard the family arguing that night, voices raised in panic, something about the walls moving, and then silence. By morning, the house stood empty. Breakfast was still on the table, eggs congealing in their plates, coffee steaming as if poured seconds ago. The beds were unmade, pajamas strewn across the floor, but no one was inside. The police found no signs of forced entry, no struggle, just the front door locked from the inside. The pattern repeated. The Whitmans in 1951, gone after their youngest son screamed about the thing under his bed. The Garrisons in 1978 vanished. The same night their dog started howling at the walls, its fur falling out in clumps before it too was taken. The Callaways were the last. Their daughter's diary told the most. She wrote about the whispers, the way the house breathed at night, how her parents stopped hearing her when she screamed. The final entry was written in something dark and sticky. He says I can stay forever. The police closed the case. The house still stands. And if you listen closely when the wind dies down, you can hear faint voices behind the walls, begging to be let out. 2. The Child's Diary. Emma Calloway was 9 when she started writing in the pink notebook. At first, it was normal child scribbles, drawings of her family, complaints about broccoli. Then the entries changed. There's a man in my walls. He talks to me at night. Her parents dismissed it as nightmares, but the writing grew frantic. He says the house is hungry. He says it likes children best. The last page was the worst. The ink was wrong, too thick, too red. The words slanted wildly, as if written in a panic. He's in my room now. He's smiling. He says I can stay forever. When investigators found the diary, the page was still wet. And in the corner, barely visible, was a small handprint, too large to be Emma's. 3. The Living House. Workmen refused to go near the house after what happened to Carl Dietrich. He was hired to fix the sagging porch, but when he pried up a floorboard, something gripped his wrist. He swore the wood squeezed back. His crew laughed until they saw the marks, deep, finger-shaped bruises as if something had been holding on. Later, Carl whispered to his wife that the walls moved when no one was looking, that the house breathed. The next morning, she found his side of the bed empty. The front door was locked, and the walls were damp. Or the warm walls. Even in winter, the house radiated heat. Neighbors said touching the siding was like pressing your hand against a sleeping beast, warm, pulsing. One winter, a homeless man broke a window to get inside. In the morning, his screams woke the street. When help arrived, they found him half-merged with the house. His fingers had sunk into the wood, his flesh bubbling like melting wax. His mouth stretched in a silent scream as the walls pulled him deeper. By the time the police came, only his face remained, eyes wide and pleading, before the house swallowed him whole. 5. The breathing floorboards. Visitors who stayed too long felt it, the slow, rhythmic push beneath their feet, like something huge sleeping below. Some swore they heard whispers rising through the cracks, voices pleading, "Help us, help us." It's so dark down here. A paranormal investigator once knelt to listen. The floorboards opened beneath him, just a slit, just enough for something wet and fingerless to wrap around his ankle. His team pulled him free, but his leg was changed afterward. The skin fused like bark, the bones warped. He killed himself a week later, writing in his final note, "It's still inside me." 6. The locked basement. Every owner added a new lock to the basement door. The last was a steel padlock, thick as a fist. When police cut it off, they found the door wouldn't budge. Not until something on the other side breathed inward, sucking it open. The stairs led down into pure black. The first officer who descended made it 3 steps before his radio erupted with screaming. Not static, but voices, dozens of them. Howling in unison, he fled. The next day, the basement door was locked again, and from below something knocked back. 7. The nightly whispers. After dark, the house talks. Locals swear they've heard children giggling inside long after it was empty. Others report whispers from the walls, fragments of conversations from families long gone. One woman claimed she heard her dead sister's voice calling her name from inside. When she pressed her ear to the door, something licked her through the keyhole. She moved away the next day. The house still sends her letters, written in handwriting that isn't human. 8. The photos that changed. The realtor, Linda, thought the house would be an easy sell. She took photos, the parlor, the kitchen, the master bedroom. But when she reviewed them, something was off. In every shot, a blurred figure stood just behind her. its face smeared like wet paint. The second batch was worse. The figure was clearer now, a man with too many teeth, his arms outstretched as if reaching for the camera. The final photo showed him inches from the lens, his mouth unhinging like a snake's. Linda burned them. The next morning, the photos were back in her desk, and this time the man was waving. 9. The last investigation. The paranormal team set up cameras, determined to prove the house was haunted. The footage showed the truth, the walls rippling, the furniture sliding on its own. The last clip was the worst, a close-up of the bedroom wall bulging outward, something pressing against the plaster until it split, revealing a single lidless eye. The team fled. One member, Jake, didn't make it out. They found him in his home days later. His body melted into the drywall, his mouth open in a scream. The coroner said he suffocated, but the neighbors swore they heard him, still, screaming inside. The walls for weeks after. 10. The house's hunger. The house isn't haunted. It's alive, and it's always hungry. It calls to people in their dreams, lures them inside with whispers of safety. Once they cross the threshold, the doors lock themselves. The walls close in, and when the screaming stops, the house grows a little bigger. The foundation spreads. The attic gains another room, because every victim becomes part of it, forever.